Welcome. My name is Bill the Lyons. I'm a Bible study leader in Lincoln, California at Lincoln Hills Community Church. This is a great day in California. It's a day that God made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. I'll be using this morning the NIV Study Bible, As a reference material, I'll be using the book Be Mature, Book in James by Warren Wiersbe. This is the lesson number 9 out of 10 lessons. We'll be studying chapter 5, verses 1 through 12. James has broken this down into two sections. Chapter 5, verse 1 through 6, and then in the next section it'll be 7 through 12. First section theme is trouble and prayer. One of the characteristics of a mature Christian is that you pray a lot. The first section on the theme is looking at the rich oppressors, and he gives 3 reasons that he's really addressing these rich oppressors. The first one is how they gain their wealth. They got their wealth through not paying the people who work for them and controlling the courts. Second reason is what they do with their wealth. Well, they're buying things, storing them, hoarding them. Also, they're living in luxury. They're self-indulgent. They're spending all this money on themselves. Third reason is what the wealth is going to do. James says the wealth will vanish, they'll erode their character, and they will be judged. The second session, the theme is be patient. James gives 3 examples. One is the farmer, one is the prophet, and the last one is Job. I'm going to read James 5, chapter 5, verse 1 through 12 at this time. Warning to rich oppressors. Chapter 5, verse 1. Now listen, you rich people, weep and wail because of the misery that is coming upon you. Your wealth has rotted, and moths have eaten your clothes. Your gold and silver are corroded. Their corrosion will testify against you and eat your flesh like fire. You have hoarded wealth in the last days. Look, the wages you failed to pay the workmen who mowed your fields are crying out against you. The cries of the harvesters have reached the ears of the Lord Almighty. You have lived on earth in luxury and self-indulgence. You have fattened yourself in the days of slaughter. You have condemned and murdered innocent men who are not opposing you. Second section, patience in suffering. Verse 7. Be patient then, brothers, until the Lord's coming. See how the farmer waits for the land to yield its valuable crop, how patient he is for the autumn and the spring rains. You too be patient and stand firm, because the Lord is coming is near. Don't grumble against each other, brothers, or you will be judged. The judge is standing at the door. Brothers, as an example of patience in the face of suffering, take the prophets who spoke in the name of the Lord. As you know, we considered blessed those who have persevered. You have heard of Job's perseverance, have seen what the Lord finally brought about. The Lord is full of compassion and mercy. Above all, my brothers, do not swear, not by heaven or by earth or by anything else. Let your yes be yes and your no be no, or you will be condemned. Our pastor gives us a series of questions, and we discuss those questions to facilitate learning about the book of Job. I will now go to those questions. Question 1. Read what James has to say to the rich of his day in James chapter 5, 1 through 6. We just read that. What problem does his readers appear to have, and how has affluence contributed to their problems? Well, first, the rich are getting richer by cheating the poor. They're got problems of the poor crying out to the Lord Almighty against them because of the injustice. They're hoarding their money and food. They've condemned and murdered innocent men. And the affluence of the money is one of the problems because they think they're blessed by the Lord, which they're not. Let us go to question 2. Let the words of verse 7 form a picture in your mind, and then describe that picture. What does this verse say about looking for the Lord's return? Well, let's read verse 7. Verse 7, Be patient then, brothers, until the Lord's coming. See how the farmer waits for the land to yield its valuable crop, how patient he is for the autumn and the spring rains. Well, the first part of the question, what kind of picture does that form in your mind? In my mind, that forms a picture of a person who's patient, who knows the Lord and understands that you have to do what you're doing in His time, and crops take a certain cycle, and God provides the rain during the time that it takes to do that. So they're patient, they wait, and they get the job done because God is with them. If you take a look at how that applies to us in the Lord's coming, it says that we need to be patient. We need to understand that the Lord is with us every minute of the day and night, and that He knows when that time comes, and we should be ready for it. Question 3. What reason does James give in this chapter for not complaining about one another? Well, James says that you shouldn't grumble against each other because you will be judged, and Christ is going to judge you. How does this compare with what James said in 4 verse 11, 12? Well, chapter 4, verse 11, 12 says, Do not slander your brothers. Do not judge your brothers, or you will be judged. And there's only one judge, Jesus Christ. How does this compare with the two readings? They're the same. Let's go to question 4. James asks us to consider the patient example of the prophets in the face of suffering. What are some examples of patient suffering that you think of the Old Testament? What Old Testament character most personifies faith that never gives up? Well, there's quite a few examples. I've just picked Elijah. He announced to King Ahab there's going to be 3.5 years of drought. And he lived through those 3.5 years of drought, and God was with him, and he persevered. The last part of the Old Testament character that promised the most faith and never gave up is Job. Let us go to the next question. Question 5. How did Job persevere? Look especially at Job chapter 1, verse 13, 22, and chapter 2, 7, 10, and Job 42, verse 1 through 6. And what those say is that Job lost all his donkeys and oxen to raiders, that the Chaldeans came in and took his camels, that fire came down from heaven and burned up his sheep, that wind came in from the desert blew his house down and killed all his sons and daughters. So what did Job do in response to that? Let's read that in chapter 42, verse 1 through 6, what his response was. And then when Job went through all his different troubles, he also had the trouble that Satan put sores all over his body, and his wife said that, that you should curse the Lord and kill yourself. When all these things happened to him, he tore his clothes and shaved his head, and then he replied to the Lord after being questioned, after many months of being through this particular type of troubles, and the Lord finally speaking to him, then he replies to the Lord in this manner: I know that you can do all things. No plan of yours can be thwarted. You asked, who is this that obscures my counsel without knowledge? Surely I spoke of things I did not understand, things too wonderful for me to know. You said, listen now, and I will speak. I will question you, and you shall answer me. My ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you. Therefore I despise myself and repent in dust and ashes. So the message there is Job didn't give up. He persevered. And at the end, God gave him back his health. Also, he gave him back wealth, double what he had before. And what lessons do I draw from this for my life? Well, that tells me that be patient at all times. Know that God is with you even though it doesn't seem that way. And you will persevere. Question 6. What does it mean for you to let your yes be yes and your no be no? As James says in verse 12. Well, it shows you're a mature Christian. You tell the truth. There's 5 characteristics to a mature Christian. Patience, tell the truth, control your tongue, be a peacemaker, and pray. If you do all these things and you have integrity, all you need to say is yes, and people will know that you mean that, and you don't have to explain it. Let's go to question 7. Look up the following verses on patience. I give 11 verses. I went through all 11. I would just give you an example. You can go through the Bible and pick up verses on patience and do the same thing. But Proverbs 15 verse 18 says that hot-tempered men end up in causing decisiveness and quarrels. Patient men calms those quarrels. And what do you learn about the value and importance of patience to our faith? I've learned that patience is very, very, very important to our faith. We need to be patient, listen, and hear what God is saying to us. This completes our lesson for today. The lesson next week will be chapter 5, verse 13 through 20, and our final lesson. God bless you. Thank you for being with us.